Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Savvy Entrepreneur Show. If you're an entrepreneur or you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, this show is just for you. I'm Doris Nagel, your host for the next hour. I'm a crazy serial entrepreneur myself, and I also love helping other entrepreneurs. The show has two goals. First, to share helpful information and resources for entrepreneurs and small business people. If I can help just a handful of you not make some of the same mistakes that I've seen or that I've made, then I'll consider myself successful. Second, the goal is to inspire you. Sometimes being an entrepreneur is lonely. It's confusing. It's discouraging. Sometimes you have no idea where to turn for information and how to make the right decisions. So I always found that I got inspiration from other entrepreneurs. And so I bring entrepreneurs and people who help entrepreneurs onto the show every week to share their stories and advice. And my guest this week is Erin Marcus. She is the founder of a company called Conquer Your Business. And we're going to talk more about just exactly what that means. So, Erin, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining the Savvy Entrepreneur today.
Thank you, Doris. I'm so excited to be here and chat with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so talk about Conquer Your Business. What does it do? Who does it serve?
Who do we serve and what do we do? So Conquer Your Business, what do? We really create business and branding strategies that build multiple 6- and 7-figure businesses. It is strategy first. I can't say it enough times.
Strategy second, strategy third, strategy fourth.
Fifth. Yeah, exactly. And what we do is we really help people get over that bridge from solopreneur / entrepreneur and into being a true business owner, to be able to move through launching something into leveraging your assets and on into leading a business and making sure all of the moving parts that need to keep moving are able to do so. And really, it's about figuring that all out first before we start looking at what tactics to use.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big things, right? Like I kept saying strategy first so that we can pick the tactics that are going to be most effective for you.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I've worked with a bunch of entrepreneurs who seem very fixated all the time on when can I hire my first person? Like, well, wait. You don't even have a proven business model, or you haven't really got a clear sales cycle yet. But how do you even know who you're hiring? Right?
Well, I actually, interestingly enough, I have a lot of clients in I would even say $1 million, right at that $1 million mark, who don't have a very clear sales system. That's actually one of our specialties, because people go into business to do the thing that the business does for a living, right? You become a lawyer, you become an accountant, you become a consultant to do the thing. And they don't necessarily know how to create a client acquisition system, right? Something that's repeatable, something that's predictable. And they have a nice business because of they'll activate their network. They do a good job. And so there are things that they're doing that create a nice business.
Right.
And then you get to the point where you realize if you hit a year like we've had in the last year and the market does a little drop on you, what is your system to make that repeatable and predictable?
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of entrepreneurs, and even, I participated in trainings for entrepreneurs, and I'm struck listening to you and thinking back on those, how few of them talk about systems, processes, because that's not very sexy, I guess. But
no,
but
I
do you
myself.
Do you see that?
I totally see it. And I also totally get it, because I too in fact, I even did a live show a couple of weeks ago called The Love Letter I Never Thought I'd Write. And it was embracing the idea of processes. And I think one of the things that happens is maybe they're making the same mistake I made, where I, for some reason, had following a process in my brain equating following the rules. Most entrepreneurs are not really good rule followers. And
Oh, no.
right. And
No.
what I really mean by processes and strategies and systems is figuring out what works and then creating a repeatable way to do it. And
Yep.
if you really want to, a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck and hit plateaus because they're reinventing the wheel every time because they haven't taken what they know how to do or taken the business that they have and broken it down into those repeatable processes that allow them to go on vacation, for example.
Right. Right. Well, or they've broken them down for themselves and they know how to do it, but they haven't explained to anybody else how to do it.
Right.
So they're the spider in the middle of the web, and that's where they stay.
Oh yeah. And it becomes the absolute bottleneck.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
and we'll talk about this, but I'm convinced there are some entrepreneurs who actually like that.
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot. I don't have no problem with that. I think my thing is I have zero judgment. I really do. I have zero judgment on the type of business you want to have. It could be a freelance business where we're really just self-employed. It could be a big, huge company. It could be a small hobby company. There is no wrong answer to that. My caveat is that you choose it, don't settle for it.
Right.
I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs telling themselves that they like what they have only because it's been too hard for them to create what it is that they've really wanted.
That's true. And I think we'll talk about the flip side. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs who, for whatever reason, think that they need to scale because I guess everybody thinks going IPO is, or getting venture capital is the way to go, or people have told them they must scale. And I think some business people, frankly, I don't know that I think some are just happy being spider in the middle of the web, and they like it and they don't want to change that. And that's okay too.
And it's really all the same problem, right? Where there's a path that other people have laid out that they think you should follow, whether it's family, whether it's the media, whatever it is. Like there's a path that you think you're supposed to follow, and then you follow it. And what's interesting is the first question I ask people is often the question that's the hardest for them to answer. And it's, well, what do you want?
Right. Right. What do you want from your business? And it's okay for that to change too.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. I think we all go through cycles and phases in our life, whether it's due to external circumstances. There might be children involved. There might be aging parents involved. There might be health concerns involved. There's a million things. There could be a time in your life where you just don't want to work that darn hard, right? Whatever it is, people don't realize how much control they really have over their own lives.
Yeah. We put ourselves in a lot of boxes, don't we?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I love that. What do you want from your business? And why do you think that's such an important question, especially for startup or, younger businesses?
Well, I think it's an important question for everything in your life, because everything you want to create needs to be reverse engineered. We get ourselves in trouble, and by in trouble, I mean we get ourselves off track when we just start doing random acts of business, random acts of marketing, random acts of offering things, and we don't know what we're trying to do with it, right? Like I remember when I was in school for my MBA, and one of the books they always have you read is From Good to Great, and I forget which chapter it was, talking about getting the right people on the bus. All you got to do is get the right people on the bus. Except the thing is, really good people won't get on a bus if they don't know where it's going.
Right.
And whether it's your relationship, whether it's your finances, whether it's your health, whether it's your business, you stand a much better chance of getting what you want if you reverse engineer it, meaning decide what it is that you want and go about creating it instead of just doing a bunch of random stuff that may or may not lead to where it was you thought you were going to end up or wanted to go.
And I think a lot of that is in part because so many of us are in overwhelm. And I'm talking about just people in our society today, much
Oh, yeah.
less a business owner. There's just so many things you're juggling.
I just said
And
that to somebody. I'm like, I asked, my assistant lives in Florida and we were chatting and I said, is there currently a state in this country that actually works? And I don't mean politically. I just mean where things just work. I'm having a problem with my health insurance. I'm having a problem with the Illinois Tollway Authority, and none of it matters and none of it's a lot of money. But it's taking hours and hours and hours to solve stupid, irrelevant problems.
well, and
And
they're aggravating.
they're aggravating.
They're
And
like thorns that just fester, and you're like,
what is it?
please, let it get it out.
Right. And what do they call that? Death by 1,000 cuts, right? Like none of it's a big deal. But when you start to add this in together, and now for families again that have kids or any of the other natural things about life,
Right.
I do think that right now it's harder to just get through day to day than it had been for a while because things just aren't quite working.
Well, and they're moving fast. There's this expectation of everything needs to be fast, or food needs to be super fast, and you call somebody and you're expecting a call right back, and you send an email, and yeah, it was funny. My daughter is guilty of this. She will send a text and she's like, Mom, why didn't you answer me back? I'm like, I did. She was, yeah, 30 minutes later. Well, I'm like not glued to my phone and texting me back, but
my parents have learned no news is good news. If you don't hear from me, you should just assume everything's fine.
Right. But there is in many aspects of our lives a sense of it should happen now.
Right. And it doesn't, right. So you have these two things happening at the same time where everything has gotten more complicated, meaning there's 6 steps to getting anything done instead of 1 step. And we expect it all to happen instantly.
We do. We do. Well, all right. So how do you help your clients figure out what they want from their business?
I help them. Well, this is where the journalism degree really comes in handy because we figure it out by asking them a million questions. And right, I mean, it's just a constant brush. I guess I should maybe apologize to them now, but it's very hard to do this for yourself. Most of us are just we're too close to our lives, we're too close to our own businesses, we're too close to our own stories, and having a third party to bounce ideas off of and walk through exactly what needs to happen and when and how is really how you get to those answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not necessarily a checklist or questionnaire or
sure. I mean, I know I've done this enough times where I have a process to it, but I think if all it were was a survey, you would lose half the equation, right? It comes from the other side of the interaction.
Yeah.
Being able to pick up on nonverbal cues, having the emotional intelligence to figure out when somebody's holding back a little bit and how to probe follow-up questions.
Yeah. And I think I do really believe, having watched a lot of entrepreneurs, friends, colleagues, past clients, excuse me. Oh, where that came from.
Allergies.
Past clients and colleagues and past clients, it's darn hard sometimes to tease that out. So it's not only hard for you to look in the mirror and ask yourself, and honestly, no kidding around,
right,
stare yourself straight back and give yourself the straight answer, because you're telling yourself stories all the time. We all do. But it's darn hard even to get people maybe who know you well sometimes to get that out. Now, you might be able to, if you're really careful and your friends are really diplomatic and candid with you, but a lot of times those people have lenses of their own. And you'll start hearing, things creep in like, well, I never thought you were going to be very good at this. You should have just stayed at your old job. Or, I have another friend who's really religious, and she's like, Doris, you just got to give it up to God. It's like, and get back to get back to the church. It's like, well,
and the other thing is, none of those people are qualified.
I'm like, well, maybe those are right, but honestly,
Right.
you sound like you kind of have an agenda here too.
Exactly.
I mean, you want what's best for me, but it's through the eyes of what you think is best.
And they, and people are, that's how our brains work. I mean, when you really put this all together, we all communicate in a way through the lens of our own opinions and experiences. And on top of it, the person trying to break through is up against subconscious programming, limiting beliefs, everything, from a neuroscience standpoint that makes this hard. But that's also why I don't go to those people for advice on things that have nothing to do with them. Mm-hmm. And I think I get feedback that I'm a little weird on this. I don't ask a whole lot of people what I should be doing. Now, I will ask people who know how to do something, how I could get better at it. But right. I don't ask other people what I should be doing with my life. I don't understand that.
Yeah. Right. Or asking your clients' colleagues what they should do with their lives. I mean, it's just, you get some really goofy stuff. So the other part of your theme is not only what do you want from your business, but how badly do you want it? So talk about the second half of that. What do you mean by that?
Well, the truth is this, if you really want to grow a business, embracing that entrepreneurial spirit, it's not easy. It's not easy. I saw a speaker. I met a gentleman yesterday. I love the way he said it, Mike Malatesta. He said, be hard to kill. We talk about resilience. He went all for it and just said, be hard to kill. This is not easy. You're up against, again, we already said, you're up against neuroscience and limiting beliefs. You're up against the opinions of people who you should be doing something else. You have to learn 1.5 million new skills, and the environment will change as soon as you figure them out. Like if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. Right. So how bad do you want it? There's that phrase that, 3 feet from gold. Most people will quit. So you should go into it knowing how bad do you want it. And one of the things that I've watched happen, especially in the last few years with this whole great resignation and quiet quitting and all that, which to me is a little bit weird because I've quit every job I didn't like. I didn't need a label or a social movement, but please don't stay.
I don't know. I think sometimes the media just needs clicks,
Right. They need something to talk about. But if you are starting a business, and this is something I have seen for decades, if you are starting a business because you are running away from something you are mad about, you are going to have a so much more difficult time than if you are starting your business because you're driven to create something. So when I say, how bad do you want it? People make change for 2 reasons. People take action for 2 reasons, either to avoid pain or move towards pleasure. And if you are trying to run your business to avoid pain, the problem with that is as soon as there's a teeny tiny alleviation of that pain, you will stop. You will stop because when you take action, when we have a headache, we take a Tylenol. As soon as the headache goes away, I don't keep taking more Tylenol. The pain has been alleviated. It's the same thing in your business. If you're worried about paying the bills, for example, and a lot of, cash flow management is a big fat hairy deal in business. If cash flow management is causing a problem and you don't have any money and you're driven by this need to alleviate this problem of not having any money, most of the time, the business owner will then go out, get a client, that client pays them, that alleviates the pain of not having any money.
Right.
And so the business owner stops. Look, I've alleviated the pain. I don't have to do the hard thing anymore. And so if you're taking action to avoid pain, you're not going to have the success that you really could have, as opposed to if you're driving toward creating something. And this goes back to what we started out talking about with like processes and systems. If all you're doing is trying to take the edge off, you don't need a process for that because you're just trying to take the edge off.
You know, my first job out of the corporate world, I was really gigging. I landed a client. They wanted me 5 days a week. It was wonderful work. And I thought, this is great. You know, I'm having fun. People are like, oh, you have your own business consulting. Ha 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 ha. No, that's not consulting. No,
It's
no, no.
freelancing.
You see, I didn't have any systems or processes in place to build out other clients. I didn't leave myself any space to continue to market and find other clients. I simply was happy that I had work coming in the door and it was interesting work and I worked with great people on a fun project. But one day I woke up and they said, we've had some budget setbacks and I'm sorry, we have to cut most of our consultants. And you're like, oh, thought I had this consulting business, but now I can see I got really nothing because I have no systems to hedge the client that might go away with other work in the pipeline or other people that might have been able to help me do some of the work. It was so dumb, but it's a perfect example, right?
It's a perfect example. And then you don't even have the safety net that you did as an employee, that if you got fired, you'd at least have unemployment for a minute. But it's totally normal. I had a client that went through that. She had a bookkeeping business, as she called it, and she had one client. And then that one client, one client went away.
Yep.
For whatever reason. And then she had a second client. So she was bringing in $300 a month. That's not a business, right? But we worked together. And by the end of the year, she was making $9,000 a month.
It just shows you it requires a different way of thinking about it. And you need to do that even if all you want to do is gigging, by the way. Even if your business is gigging, that there's a lot of thought to be put into it.
Right. Like even if your business is gigging, make sure you're keeping up with your networking.
Yeah. So
that if you do lose your client, you have 50 different people you can call, boom, right then and there, that will lead to something.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. I am curious about how badly do you want it piece and your theme of what do you want from your business and how badly do you want it? I mentioned earlier that I have seen a number of entrepreneurs that fool themselves and think that they say they want to scale, but they don't take any of the steps or not many of the steps that they actually need to do to scale. So what are some of the kinds of things that you would need to do if you really truly want to scale your business?
So it's funny you say that. I did a workshop just yesterday for a whole group of people on how to do this. And well, first, let me preface it by saying this. The hard work in doing this is not the marketing. It's not the sales. It's not the social media. That's not the hard work. None of that's the hard work. And that's not the hard work because you can buy it. There's brilliant people out there who do that and you can pay them money and they will do a very good job for you. The hard work is the mindset work. The hard work is being willing to be visible. The hard work is being willing to fail. The hard work is learning how to take risk and handle the mental weight load of maneuvering through that risk as it plays out. So when I say how badly do you want it, you have to be willing to do the hard work on yourself that allows you to do all the things. And then in terms of tactically what you need to do, I hired my first team member within 3 months of starting my business. Not because we had so much money, but because I couldn't afford not to.
Talk about that, because I think that's a trap that a lot of startups get into. I'm going to try to do it myself. I got to tough it out. I just don't have any money to hire other people.
Yeah.
I should outsource it. I know I should because it's not the highest and best use of my time, but I don't really have the money.
And most of the time, the reason they're not able to pull it off is they're outsourcing the wrong thing and they're filling their time with things that don't actually produce result. It's really, really, really every single time about focus. Focus, focus, focus. There's a million different ways to grow a business. There's a lot of different business models. There's a lot of different marketing strategies. There's a lot of different tactics. There's so many different things you can do. And what the mistake that I watch people make, or let me flip it this way. How do you know what to do? Make a list of all the different things you want to do. And then for each of those things, ask yourself, how many dots are there between doing that thing and making money? How many steps have to happen between you taking that action and you getting a client? And just do the ones with the least amount of steps. So many times I'm watching brand new entrepreneurs who have zero following. They have no audience. They don't have their messaging dialed in. They don't know what they're doing yet, which, by the way, is perfectly fine. This is a totally normal process to go through. But they're going to launch a podcast, and that's how they're going to get audience.
Oh, well,
you're right. Like, dude, there's
much
time, right? No, don't do, and you're talking to two people who have these things. Like, there is so much time, money, and effort that happens between creating a podcast regularly, marketing it, getting it out in the world, and getting clients from it.
It's a long
game. It's the long game. And the reason that people run into these problems is because most of the time, not all the time, most of the time, long game tactics get you out of talking to other human beings, right?
Yeah.
Most people are choosing passive long-term strategies over short-term active strategies because they're avoiding having sales conversations. They just, they're trying to create the perfect environment where somebody will walk up to them having seen a Facebook or LinkedIn post and just say, here, take my money.
Right. I have been waiting and waiting for you to come along, and here you are. Thank goodness you've arrived.
And this is just not how it happens. And this is, and I go back to how bad do you want it? This is the hard work. Like, you wake up one day and you realize, holy crap, I'm a salesperson. I didn't mean to do that. Meant to be a lawyer, right? Like, didn't mean to do that. Meant to be a bookkeeper. This is the big challenge. This is the hard work. Are you a business owner? Are you able to embrace business owner tactics? You can learn how to do them. That's like the really good news here. A lot of these are just skills that you can learn how to do.
One of the questions you asked really struck me, which is, are you a salesperson? I don't know what your experience has been, but I'm going to guess a lot of the people who become entrepreneurs are not natural salespeople. They're people who have an idea that they're passionate about, or maybe they have a skill and they love helping people with it. But a salesperson, they are not. How do you identify those people and how do you help them?
I think what we have to realize is, by nature, humans are salespeople. And this is something that has been tamped down in us, is not beat out of us, as opposed to thinking that it's not a natural trait. All you need to do is watch a kid want something, right? Like, come on. All you need to do is watch most small children just want something.
Right. Watch them negotiate their way to an ice cream bar or something.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that that's the best approach to sales, but when we want something, we're usually pretty reasonably decent at figuring out a way to get it. And I think, unfortunately, the personification of salespeople has been just destroyed through movies and TV shows, right? Like,
and let's just admit, telemarketers have done
telemarketers.
I mean, those are, and used cars or car salespeople, they're just
right. And truthfully, all these direct marketing MLMs that have people trying to sell things to their friends over and over again. Like, there's certainly bad ways to not go about selling, but there's also bad ways to not go about building a house, bad ways to not going about being a police officer, bad ways to not go about doing every other job that there is. There's also good ways to go about it.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So how do you encourage people to learn to be better salespeople, or to maybe figure out which assets that they have that clients might relate to and help them focus on that, amplify that, actually ask for the business,
well, and what you said is exactly it. Figure out what assets they have and amplify it. The way that I teach sales, and I have a course that I teach called Putting the Conversation Back into Your Sales Conversations. There's a million things you can do that will make your sales conversations so much easier and so much more pleasant and so much more enjoyable, not just for a prospect, but for you. And this goes back to needing to learn a skill. Like, there's a good sales conversation starts way before we ever discuss whether or not we're going to exchange money for services.
Right. I wish you would tell that to some of the many people on LinkedIn who,
oh my God, right?
You can, I no longer just connect with people because even ones who tell me a good story, because there's too many of them. The next email I get from them or message on LinkedIn is, I'm sure a business like yours needs, I don't know, apps or software,
Right.
someone to help with you with your software development needs. I'm like, what is the brain damage? I don't have anything to do with software development. You obviously didn't even take it.
You didn't even look,
a
right?
Mass message.
They're using bots.
You connected with 20 people and sent them the same message, whether it resonated or not. I'm like, go away.
So and I agree. It's very annoying. I don't know how many are using bots and how many have been taught to do this. That being said, going back to our theme of how bad do you want it, I know a lot of people who have said, well, I'm not using LinkedIn anymore because of this, and this. All right. So what you're telling me is the effort it takes to take 1 minute and delete a bunch of DMs is what you're going to stop you from the 75% of your time on LinkedIn, which is a very beneficial tool.
Right.
Okay, now we know where you stop. And then you can also have a little fun with it, because of the business that I'm in, I will, depending on the person, I might look at their profile and I'll write back and say, you seem very nice. You seem very driven. You seem to really enjoy what you're trying to do for people. If you're interested in how to create connections and come up with a marketing and sales strategy that will work for you without offending people, please let me know. I'd love to help you. And then I've also, you got to remember, like, a lot of what I do is to just entertain myself. I've also gone back and written back, legitimate question. Does this work? Legitimate question. Does this work? I'm dying to know. I don't know anybody who likes receiving these messages. And yet there's enough people out there sending them that I've got to believe you wouldn't do it if you didn't think it worked.
I mean, it's the same with telemarketers. I mean,
right.
And direct mail.
They wouldn't be doing it. Well, two things. One, a lot of them wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work. But two, it goes back to what I said. They're really trying to avoid a conversation. Sending an anonymous DM through LinkedIn or Facebook, it's not very risky.
Right.
Because you're not actually face to face.
Well, it's interesting you say that. And that's where I think social media sometimes trips up a lot of businesses. I pretty quickly found out, one, I love to write. I'm good at it. And I can create content all day long. It's very easy for me to come up with blog posts and things to put out there. But what I found is you can spend your entire day not actually tending to your business and just posting interesting stuff and responding to stuff on social media, and
And
you
tell
don't
yourself how busy you were and how hard you tried.
absolutely. But did I engage in any sales conversations spending time doing it? No. Um,
It can't be
no.
the only thing you do. And the way that I teach people, most people, not everybody, it's different approach for certain businesses, but for most of us, social media is a credential that can re-engage with people that you've met in other ways. If it can't be the only thing you're doing, I do think it's an important part of any marketing plan. Creating brand awareness 100% has to happen. That's the world that we live in. But
Right.
if it's the only thing that you're doing, it's not going to work.
Right.
It has to
You'll
be
be
done
very
differently.
sad. You'll
Well,
be
you're going to
very
run out of
sad.
money. You're
Yes,
going to
you
run out
will.
of time and money before it works. It's not that it doesn't work. It's just that you're going to run out of time and money by the time that you figure it out.
That is absolutely that is and it can be, as you have said, a way to hide from having real conversations
Yeah.
with real potential customers.
It's one of those things I said, there's too many like you're going to lie to yourself and think, well, I'll make a post and then someone will call me and want to work with me. That's just one step away. But
Right.
it's delusional. It's not how it works.
I loved one of your recent blog posts was the lies that entrepreneurs or small business people tell
Right.
themselves, and I think that's a lie that we tell ourselves, or that we have been told by others that we've fallen for hook, line, and sinker.
And
Unfortunately,
I'm the reason I'm so direct with my language is I like to remove wiggle room for myself, just as my, it's not just for everyone else, for myself too. The more direct I can be with my language, the better decisions I'll make, because I remove the euphemisms that give my subconscious an out.
I love it. So another way I've seen entrepreneurs fool themselves, and this goes back to the theme of what do you want from your business and how badly do you want it? I have seen a lot of entrepreneurs and small business people, and I think this might be more common with women entrepreneurs, but they fool themselves into thinking they can basically throw themselves into their new business, but not suffer any repercussions in their personal life.
Mm.
And maybe not even realize how much they've sacrificed until there's some sort of, I don't want to say
Yeah.
crack up, but some sort of reckoning moment, because you have to want the business badly enough, but you still have to draw a line somewhere, or you will pretty quickly find you don't have many friends. You may not have much personal life. You may not have much of a family left.
It's all decisions, right? It's decisions and boundaries. One of the quotes that I've heard once was, live like nobody will so that you can live like nobody can. And it takes some work. So maybe for a certain period of time, you got to say no to a bunch of stuff so that you're prioritizing your time and your financial investment in order to get to a certain point. But the other thing, I think one of the things that hold people back, women in particular, I agree, is the fear of judgment and having to develop such a thick skin and being able to get through the phases. How does this go? People will ignore you at the bottom, they'll judge you in the middle, and they'll hate you at the top. And your world gets a little smaller. How bad do you want it? I do some really risky, nerve-wracking things in my business sometimes when we're trying to launch something and we want it to go well, and I'm really big, like all vested in it. How's this going to go? And I don't have the bandwidth when I'm in that mode to talk to some of my friends who just don't understand why I'm even trying to do what I'm doing. Right. So I put my little safety bubble on, and for a period of time, I get really black and white. You're either for me or against me. And if I'm in one of those times when I need to kind of get reinforced on my own, I might retreat from a couple people for a short period of time. And the other thing is, and women do this all the time, your mother, your partner, your sister, it is not their job to agree with you on your business. Like you don't have to tell them everything. You don't have to get 17 people's opinions who have never had a business on what it is that you should be doing next. And then get all mad and feel judged when they don't give you the answer you had wanted from them. It's not fair. It's not fair for you to put it on them.
I agree with you. And I do think the issue of worrying about being judged is one that makes decisions more difficult for entrepreneurs, because if you're worried about being judged because you're not coaching your kids' soccer league or not being there for your kids' soccer games, and you're worried about being judged at how you come across on social media and how you come across to your employees. And I mean, the list goes on and on. You gotta, I think that's one of the lessons. You gotta really,
you gotta just know what you're going in there for. People are going to judge you either way. They're going to have people who are mad at you that you're not coaching your kids' soccer games. And then you're going to have the same person who's mad at you for taking 3 days off so you can go to soccer camp. And right. I mean, you can't win.
Right.
And this is just how humans work. And I try to be non-judgmental about it, but I also won't let it influence my behavior when someone says to me, "Oh, must be nice for you to be able to do XYZ. Must be nice." Yeah, it is nice. And I worked really damn hard to get here. So yes, thank you. It's very nice.
I don't know why we do that to each other. It's so petty, honestly.
Right.
It's not
one of the things I found is for those of us who stand in our decisions and stand in our boundaries and stand in our strength. That's me, right? I mean, you can tell by the cadence in my voice. I have my opinions. I'm very open to other people's opinions, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And the problem is it serves as a mirror when people see someone who is in charge of their life and doing what it is they want to do and living on their own terms. And then it reflects back to them that moment where they have to feel, am I doing that or am I not? Am I happy with what I have or am I not? And I will tell you, someone who is more successful than you will never, ever judge you. It's very interesting that people who are further along than you, right? We're all worried, well, what is so-and-so going to think? They're so successful. That person is your biggest cheerleader because they've been there, they get it, they know what you're going through. It's very interesting how the people who are further along than you are never the ones to judge you.
And I would say that's true, not just more successful in building a business, but maybe more successful in managing yourself.
Yeah.
More successful in being comfortable in your own shoes, more successful dealing with difficult situations. I mean, it could be a lot of things, right?
Absolutely. Somebody who has been there, done that, have the t-shirt. They're not the ones giving you a hard time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, how do you typically find your clients, Erin, or how do they find you?
So I do a lot of speaking. I was just at an in-person conference yesterday where I did a whole workshop. I do a lot of speaking. A lot of people listen to my podcast and then reach out, the Ready Yet podcast, and then they reach out to me, which is fantastic. Or they engage with me on social media in some way and get invited to all sorts of workshops that we do.
And what are your favorite types of clients?
My favorite types of clients are the people who are creating more.
What does that mean?
More, not just for themselves. It's not just, hey, let's see if I can make more money, but can I have a bigger impact? Can I make more opportunity for my team members? Can I, right? When the waters rise, all boats go up. Those people.
Yeah. And what are the kinds that sometimes drive you a little crazy?
Oh, people who blame everyone else for their problems. I had that. This was awesome. And she was a very nice lady. And I missed this one. I totally missed this one. Most people who like to blame everyone else for their problems or all victim-y, they don't call me. I mean, they just don't. It's pretty obvious that I don't have a lot of space for that. And so, not that bad things don't happen. I'm not saying that. But if you're gonna dwell and blame everybody else for everything that happens, those people don't like me. And I did have one sneak
How are they
through.
going to make meaningful change is my
They
question.
can't.
Yeah.
They can't. And that's fine. Like some people just want to stay in that space. And it's very easy to stay stuck and not feel bad about yourself when
they want to
somebody else.
And they want to pay you money so that they can stay in that space. That's amazing.
Right. And then
But
I did have one sneak through, and she started out great and she had a really good business model. So I was sad to see her kind of freak out. And she was very complimentary. And I thought she really had a chance to build something great and sellable in a very short period of time with not a whole lot of effort. But something happened, whatever, in her personal life, and she got sucked back into the blame game. And when we stopped working together, and this is a perfect example of like, and I'm not saying this to like call her out, that doesn't matter. But if you're seeing yourself do this, recognize this in yourself and ask yourself, wait a minute, what am I actually doing here? But what she was upset with me about was that I should have done a better job understanding that even though she signed the contract, showed up to some of the events and did some of the work, that she didn't really want to do it.
What?
That's what she said to me. Like, how would I know that? Right. So I get it. Like, I wasn't mad about that because I understand that was her brain.
That's almost too funny to
right. Well, that's
what that's
like exactly. And that's a perfect example of how your subconscious will mess with you.
Yeah, well, it does, doesn't it?
It does. And to her, it was completely reasonable that even though we were halfway through our work together and she was very complimentary and she had already made a bunch more money than she was making before, she hit her fear and her subconscious needed her to stop moving forward. And so it gave her the very reasonable to her sounding story that she didn't really want to move ahead and do this. And I should have known that. It's crazy, but this is exactly what happens to people. That's why you've got to be vigilant on the lookout for where you're doing this to yourself. Every time I come across somebody with that crazy level sounding of a story, the first question I ask is, all right, where am I doing this?
Yeah, because the work you're doing requires people to do really hard things, to admit really hard things.
Yeah.
To admit stories that they've told.
And so there's going to be fear
about themselves are just not flat out true or right.
Exactly. And that's why I'm so careful about who it is that I want to attract, because at some point in the journey, your subconscious is going to be, oh my gosh, she's making a move. Right. We better shut this down. We're all going to die. And what are you going to do in that moment?
Right. Well, hopefully your psychotherapy degree also comes very handy.
My honorary psychiatrist degree.
Yeah. Talk a little more about your business, though. When and how did you decide to start this business? Why you?
Right, exactly. So I come out of corporate. I have a weird background. I was like a really bad teenager in Chicago public schools in the 70s and 80s. And went to college, got a degree in journalism. And after that, really realized, like, if I want to live a life, I've got to make a living, right? So I always did good at the job I was at, which always led to a promotion or the next good job. And along the way, I ended up with some amazing mentors because I have no attention span and a really big work ethic. So I have a crazy bandwidth level for what I can actually get done. And bosses like that, bosses like that. So I had amazing mentors, and which led to amazing opportunities in the business world. Got my MBA in marketing and executive leadership along the way. And when I was in my late 40s, I'm like, you know what? There's got to be something more. I'm sorry, that was early 40s. It's been a while now. Late 30s, early 40s. I'm like, you know what? There's got to be something more than my corporate job. And so the first venture that I took on was actually a franchise.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah. So, well, I come out of corporate, blue collar upbringing in corporate, this whole entrepreneur thing, I didn't have a clue what that was.
Yeah.
And with my franchise, I had gotten my office to the top 10 out of 200 franchises in about 18 months.
Wow.
Because I had the business background and the marketing background. And so what would happen is the franchisor would hire me and pay me to help train new franchises. I was speaking at their conferences. I was help creating the roadmap for the other franchise owners. And if you've ever been to networking events and you all take your turn talking about your business, the feedback that I was getting was, yeah, we know you have a business, but why are you making money? How are you doing business?
Hmm.
And it became obvious through basically challenges in the business I had, which was working with families with aging parents and having the conversations I was having, which was helping all sorts of people grow their business. And the reflection that back in corporate, I was already doing mentoring and marketing and training people and teaching people how to grow businesses just as an intrapreneur instead of an entrepreneur.
Right.
That
an extrapreneur, if you want.
An extrapreneur, an outerpreneur, however you want to say it. That there was something to that. And so in 2000, at the end of 2017, I broke up my franchise, the office that I had. And in 2018, it really took that entire year to figure out what it was that I was supposed to be doing. For a long time, I called 2018 Erin's Year of Failure.
Oh, come on, that's hard.
Because
your year of exploration.
It really was. But at the time, I went from a 6-figure income and an expense account to a top 10 franchise to making $11,000.
Yeah, well.
But in reflection, it was the year of figuring out what it was I was supposed to actually be doing. And so in 2019, once I realized, this is what I know how to do. I can't even help it. My strength finders, the top 3, visionary, strategic thinker, and learner. My brain just starts rearranging your ducks as soon as you start talking about them. And then on the personal side, I absolutely love helping people and motivating and being there to show them that they can have more than they ever thought possible, that it is possible, that it's within reach, that, it takes work, but it can also be fun. And watching those light bulbs go off for people is absolutely amazing.
I can imagine. What kind of people do you think that this resonates most with? Because it occurs to me that what you do, most small business people, at least at some point, need what you're offering. But my guess is that it doesn't always fall on fertile ground.
No, I am not for everybody. I work with people who know they're smart. They know they take action. They know they're hard workers. And they know that none of us have all the answers. That they want to create something, and they know that nobody does this by themselves. So they want to grab the resources that they can to make it all happen.
The time has just flown. It's been just a delight. I've just been smiling and laughing and nodding the whole show. Erin, if people are interested in learning more about what you do, what Conquer Your Business does, or connecting with you, what's the best way for them to learn more or get in touch?
So we make it really easy. You just need to go to the website, conqueryourbusiness.com. We have all the links to my social. There's the podcast, there's articles, there's ways to get in touch with me. And we put it all in one place for you at conqueryourbusiness.com.
Erin, thanks so much for being with me this week. It's a delight having you on the show.
Thank you so much. I love chatting with you.
And thanks to all my listeners. You are the reason I do this. Check out my new radio show dedicated website, thesavvyentrepreneur.org. I'm moving more and more content over there all the time. You'll find all sorts of past episodes of the show with absolutely amazing advice from amazing entrepreneurs just like Erin today. So check out my past episodes, and you'll also find tools and blogs and all sorts of other free resources. You can also go to and find me on YouTube, the Savvy Entrepreneur Radio Show. Yes, people actually listen to podcasts on YouTube. Who knew? If you go there, you can find past episodes of the show. Please follow my channel so you'll be notified of new episodes. Listen to episodes, like them, comment on them. You'll be encouraging and being part of a community of amazing, amazing entrepreneurs. So check both of those out. Be sure to join me again next Saturday at 11 a.m. Central. But until then, I'm Doris Nagel, wishing you happy entrepreneur.